The beauty of this campaign was that it was able to be done quite quickly and to still generate really good authority. We were able to drive in links that were very relevant, and that meant that we were able to kind of build topical expertise and authority for our client with something that's very relevant to what they do.
Welcome to another episode of MustPod. My name is Chima Mmeje, your host, and our guest today is Amanda Walls. Amanda, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Amanda is the director of Cedarwood Digital, a performance marketing agency based in Manchester. Amanda has over 15 years of experience in the digital marketing sector, with the last 8 being at Cedarwood, an agency she founded back in 2016, which recently won Best Integrated Agency at the European Search Awards. Today, we'll be talking about the cheap roast dinner that earned 100 backlinks. Amanda, what inspired the idea of comparing supermarket prices for roast dinners, and how did you foresee the potential for digital PR success?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think first and foremost, when we started looking at the idea around comparing supermarkets, it was cost of living. So whenever we do something with digital PR, we're always focusing on, what are people talking about? What's topical? What's trending? And also something that's going to have like a really strong human interest appeal. So cost of living, lots of prices were going up. We considered things around kind of energy, housing, and then food became really topical because as, there was a lot going on in the world, food prices were rising. And we really wanted to look at a campaign that kind of brought all of that information together with something that was just really easily actionable and digestible for people. So when we started looking at the cheapest roast campaign, we thought, what's a kind of standard meal that most people have? And it's a Sunday lunch. It's a roast. Everyone loves a good roast, whether it's meat, whether it's vegetarian, whatever it might be. Everyone loves, veg, gravy, everything kind of coming together. And that was something that we thought would appeal to everybody. So we came up with the idea of, we started asking around the office, do you know how much like a standard lunch is? We know it's quite expensive to eat out. Do you know which supermarket would do, where would you go to kind of get a roast? And no one was really able to answer. No one really knew. And we all knew it was something that we loved to eat, but at the same time, we didn't know where or how much it would actually cost. So that was kind of what founded the idea, really. We looked around in the market. We saw it hadn't been done before. We kind of researched and no one had really kind of pulled all of that information together in one place. So we used that concept along with the kind of newsworthy side of things, which was the cost of living crisis, to essentially come up with the concept of doing a cheapest roast. We thought it was something that would really appeal to people. And also it was something that, to be fair, the staff were quite interested to know. And I was quite interested to know because I love a good roast. And I didn't know either. So, I
had a roast on Sunday.
I always love to have a roast on Sunday. So I think I used to go out a lot and try kind of different roasts around Manchester. Manchester's where we're based. But, cost of living, wanted to try and cook it myself. I've been trying my hand at cooking recently.
Wow, that's tough.
I know.
I feel like I could never attempt to make Sunday roast by myself at home.
Well, to be honest, chicken I'm not too bad with. If I tried to cook any other kind of meat, I think it might all fall apart. But I really wanted to give it a go. And I thought, you know what? This campaign is something that has everyone's interest, but it also has mine. So I kind of had a personal bind for it as well.
Okay. So how did you go about the research for the campaign? And I basically want you to walk me through that methodology.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess first and foremost, we had to go out to the supermarkets. So we wanted something that was really consistent. So we found that pretty much every supermarket had pricing online. So we decided to do it over a set period of time, so essentially a set day. So we knew that all the pricing would be consistent. The only supermarket that we struggled to do this with was Lidl, because Lidl didn't have their pricing online. So to do it for Lidl, we actually had to send someone in store, down to the local Lidl to kind of research all the different prices of the products. So first and foremost, we kind of, picked the most common ingredients to a roast. We chose a few different types of meats. So we did a chicken roast, a beef roast, a lamb roast, and then a nut roast, because we knew that, people have different meat variations and also non-meat variations. And then we chose kind of a couple of standard vegetables that we know that people love to have. So we had kind of roast potatoes, carrots. There was red cabbage in there. I've never had red cabbage on my roast, but according to research, it's quite a popular option for a Sunday roast. Gravy stock, and that was pretty much what we kind of put together. So we then went online. We looked at prices per kilogram. for a certain number of veg to kind of make the veg consistent. And then we also looked at a particular, again, weight of the meat. So again, to have a level of consistency, because obviously some supermarkets would sell a large chicken, some might have a smaller chicken, some might have like a pre-cooked chicken. So there's lots of different options. So we looked very much at the price of the meat per kilogram to get that kind of consistency. Once we'd got all of that information together, we essentially worked it out based on, we just did an average family of 4. And we also did iterations for like a 2 and a 6, just, so that it had that kind of interest appeal for people that had families of different sizes. And then we pulled all of that information together. We essentially tabled it. And then we ranked the supermarkets from top to bottom, and we put all of the pricing information onto a landing page on the website so that journalists could kind of see our methodology, but also people who wanted to read more about how we worked it out had the option to do that as well.
So how did you ensure that the research was unbiased?
Yeah, so basically by ensuring that we did it all online at price per kilogram with the same type of product. And like I said, the only real difference or the issue that we kind of had was with Lidl, because they didn't have that pricing availability. But again, we were able to get a really consistent style of product.
So what were the key findings from the research?
So I think first and foremost, the key finding was that it's probably cheaper to cook a roast at home than it is to go out for one, even though, depending on the ability of the chef, the taste might be a little bit of difference. I don't think the findings were like particularly shocking. I don't think that we had, any supermarkets that we would expect to be expensive come out cheap and kind of vice versa. But I think, one of the most important things that we were able to do through this piece was just put all that information together in one place. And it was actually quite interesting to see the supermarkets contrasted against each other, because I think, you often have a preference for a supermarket. So, you might be an Aldi shopper, you might be a Lidl shopper, you might be an M&S shopper, you might be a Tesco shopper. And I think once you've kind of set that preference for a supermarket, you very rarely venture to another one. And it might be that it's maybe not in your local area, or, if you've already got like a yearly pass for online delivery, you've kind of, you've got your shopping saved and it's too much of a hassle to look elsewhere. So I think one thing that this did really well was enabled people to essentially compare something that they maybe otherwise wouldn't look at and potentially save a few pounds along the way as well.
Yeah, because I was just about to ask you how it aligned with public perception of supermarket pricing.
I think it aligned quite well. So I think that, there was the understanding that the supermarkets are cheaper than eating out. And I think the cost of eating out, as well, is going up a lot, because you've got a lot of additional overheads with salaries and, heating pubs and, the types of places you traditionally get your roast from. So I think that probably worked quite well. But I think it was quite insightful for people to actually be able to compare those prices directly. Whereas I think previously you might have just labelled, this is a cheaper supermarket, this is a more expensive supermarket. But then of the cheaper supermarkets, it's like, well, actually who is cheaper? And of the more expensive ones, how do they actually compare? Because as food prices have gone up, I think that disparity between the sort of cheaper end and the more expensive end has started to kind of come down a little bit. And I think there's probably an awareness of that as well.
Okay, I personally prefer to shop at Asda, maybe because of where I used to live. That was like the one that was closest to me. But from your research, which one is the cheapest place to shop at?
So for the chicken roast, it was Aldi. When we did the research, okay. Yeah. So they were kind of the cheapest they came out. I think they were about 3 pence cheaper than Lidl at the time. And then, so that was kind of who, I guess, came out on top of our research packet. I don't think that was much of a surprise for people. I think
because everybody knows Aldi is like the cheapest place to shop if you're trying to save money.
Exactly. I think that's kind of what people expected. So I don't think that was kind of like a shocking headline, but I think it probably just reinforced what
they already knew.
Were thinking. Yeah.
Okay. Hey friends, one of the biggest hurdles in prospecting is sifting through mountains of data. You go in looking for quick information, but you end up spending hours to gain the full picture. Our new domain overview tool transforms mountains of data into a simple dashboard. With just a few clicks, you can see which keywords drive traffic, identify top pages with errors, and assess the overall digital health of any website. With Moz AI, prospecting is quick and straightforward. Save time with an AI-powered tool that delivers the precise information you need to make informed business decisions. So how did you ensure that the content would appeal to both media outlets and to the target audience?
So I think having a really kind of clear and concise way of doing it with consistency. So I know you sort of obviously asked, how do you make the findings consistent? Like, what's the methodology behind it? So setting out a really clear methodology on the website so that people can understand how we've come to find that information, including all the supermarkets, and allowing people to kind of compare and contrast, I think played an important role, because it was getting together all the information that people wanted to know in one place. And it was done in a table. So it was really, really easy for people to kind of digest that. And I think with any kind of information that you're putting out, whether it's on a website or through PR, the easier it is for people to kind of look at it and take away from it what they need quickly, the better that it's going to perform. So I think the way that we displayed it really helped. I think the fact that we looked at different options, so like different types of meat, and we had variety. So it wasn't just a case of, we didn't only do a chicken dinner. We did, a chicken, a beef, a lamb, a sort of nut roast. So there was options in there that appealed to all.
Did you say nut roast?
A nut roast, yeah.
Nut, N-U-T, nut roast.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, roast. What is a nut roast? I'm just saying about that for the first time.
Oh, so basically a nut roast is like a vegetarian version of a roast. So it can be things like, I think they put like cashews, and it's kind of like a stuff, stuffing. It's kind of like a non-meat stuffing, like baked. It's actually really delicious. I like.
Do you see the doubt on my face?
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, it's not my like personal go-to, but I do think it's a great alternative if you're not a fan of meat.
Hot take. What is the biggest misconception that people have about digital PR?
I think a big misconception that people have is that every campaign has to be big to be successful. So, a lot of the times when agencies are pitching campaigns, they can take a long time. They can have a lot of different assets. They can have a lot of data, a lot of information, and they can generally take a lot of time to roll out. And I think there's lots of different approaches that you can take to digital PR, but sometimes it's the simple and quick campaigns that can work just as well. So I know we're obviously here talking today about, cheapest roast dinners, but even things like fines, a lot of campaigns around, you could be fined for doing this in your garden, really quick, really simple turnaround, really great way to kind of land links, because it's got a human interest angle. So small campaigns, medium campaigns, and large campaigns can all have that human interest angle. And at the end of the day, when we're talking about, why a roast dinner is so appealing to people, it's because it's something that people always have, and it's timely with a cost of living crisis. And I think if you can do those two things, it doesn't necessarily matter what the size of the campaign is, because you're still providing something that is useful to a journalist and useful to people that want to read it, which means more people are going to read it. So I think a lot of people spend a lot of time building these really, really huge campaigns, where sometimes a really great concept and a good amount of creativity can deliver just as well, a lot quicker. And also it can kind of get you that visibility for a brand, and you don't need to necessarily spend chunks and chunks of budget to do it.
I have to agree with you, because the main reason why I wanted you on this podcast was that it's so specific. It's 100 backlinks. It doesn't seem like a lot when you see all these bigger digital campaigns, but it's still just as impactful, because 100 backlinks, it's nothing to look down on. There are people who spend thousands trying to even get like 10 backlinks. So this is the main reason why I wanted to have this conversation. Viral campaigns are great, but the ones that are not viral, that achieve like really great results, are just as important. So well done on that.
And I think just to add to that as well, like the viral campaigns have a place as well. Like they're great at kind of raising brand awareness and getting that visibility. But we can also do, a mixture of the smaller campaigns to build that awareness as well.
How did you manage to secure over 100 backlinks? Could you share some strategies or tactics that worked best in this campaign?
So great media list was a good place to start. So I think one of the great things about this campaign was it had mass appeal. Sometimes when you do a digital PR campaign, it has a very specific appeal. So maybe it has a regional appeal, or appeals to, a particular age group, whatever the case might be. But in this instance, it appealed to pretty much everyone, because pretty much everyone has a roast in pretty much any location of the UK, or, pretty much anywhere across the world, really. So it had that mass appeal to start off with, which meant that when we were building media lists, we had a lot of different options to go at. So we could go at our kind of standard daily newspapers. We could also go for regional angles. We had plenty of regional options to choose from. And you can also go for like a lifestyle angle as well. So we can go for kind of more glossy magazines and lifestyle publications who were also interested in this kind of cost of living concept. So what we did was we did a number of different pushes on a number of different dates, really. So we probably pushed this campaign out over, I would say, a period of 2 to 3 months, just to, capture people at different times. And what we would do is we would build one kind of national media list, then we would do a regional media list, then we would do a lifestyle media list. And then sometimes we would even do sort of more niche than that. So we could also do like a food media list for kind of food magazines, people that would be interested in sharing that. And I think that because the core concept of the campaign had that mass appeal, it meant that when we came to pushing it out, we got a lot of buy-in for it.
Wow.
I think the other thing was as well, it was a simple concept that people knew it would be clicked on, because a lot of this kind of comparison style content is quite popular for people in the media. So if you put out a kind of article and you say, did you know what the cheapest supermarket is for this? Or, did you know where you can get the cheapest this or that? People want to know, because it's food is something they have to buy. Everyone's got to eat. So if they're going to have to buy it, knowing what the cheapest option is always going to be have a good human interest angle.
I think is what is familiar. That's a very smart way to look at it. What are people familiar with? Everybody's familiar with Sunday roast. Everybody's familiar with the cost of living crisis. So anything around that concept, marrying them together, that was genius. So beyond backlinks, what were the other SEO benefits that you found valuable from this campaign?
So improving awareness really for our clients. So our client in this particular instance was in the financial services sector. So again, we were talking about cost of living crisis. We were talking about money. We were talking about kind of savings and something financial. So we were able to drive in links that were very relevant. And that meant that we were able to kind of build topical expertise and authority for our client with something that's very relevant to what they do. And we know that in finance, which is a your money, your life sector, that plays a really important role from an SEO perspective. So we knew that we're able to add kind of topical authority and relevance. Very, very important. I mean, it's important in all sectors, but I think particularly in something like financial services, which can have such an impact on people when Google's looking at, those kind of key trust signals, something like that plays a really important role. We were also obviously able to attract a lot of really good DR links. So we had, the likes of the Express cover it. You had a range of regional publications, including the Liverpool Echo cover it. So we were able to kind of really build the strength and authority of that link profile, which again added to this kind of expertise, authority, and trust signals, which is, again, a really kind of key component from an SEO perspective. And we're able to start building momentum for the brand as well. So I think a lot of the times when you have a campaign that's maybe generates a large amount of links, it's taken 3 or 4 months to get that campaign going when we spoke before about these large campaigns. Whereas the beauty of this campaign was that it was able to be done quite quickly and to still generate really good authority. And we had other campaigns going on at the same time. So we were really able to build on that momentum. And the beauty as well is it's kind of evergreen. So even though cheapest roast was relevant when we pushed it out, we then reworked it for Christmas. It's like cheapest Christmas roast dinner. And then we could do it again this year or, again next year, not to give anyone else ideas, but you know what I mean? You can continue to push it. So actually from an SEO perspective, it gives you the opportunity to continue to build those kind of EEAT signals, I should say now. And I think that adds a lot of value.
That is so good. That is so good. So what are the core strategies implemented that can be replicated across other digital PR campaigns?
Keeping human interest as a core concept when you start thinking and ideating of campaigns, I think is really important. So, thinking about something that's going to appeal to people, doing your research on what's topical and trending, whether it be cost of living, whether it be people searching food prices, whatever that case might be. So I think regardless of what digital PR campaign you're doing that initial research to find something that is appealing is really important. Looking at something that has broad appeal as well. So again, with this campaign, that it's got quite a significant amount of people that it can reach to. And if you're looking for something that's going to be well covered, then again, having that kind of broad appeal angle is important. And also getting all of the information that a user needs in one place, I think makes a really good newsworthy article. I studied as a journalist when I was growing up. I have a journalism degree, and I know that one of the things that I learned there was very much about how important it is to kind of have all the information that a user needs to be able to read and understand. Otherwise they leave your article, or they go elsewhere, or they start researching, or whatever the case might be. So I think if you can run a campaign that compiles all of that information together and allows a user to really easily like compare and contrast, then that again is really, really appealing to people. So I think all of those are key concepts to having like a successful digital PR campaign. And you can do that across the board with anything really. Cheapest roast is like a great example of it. But I think anything that has that strong human interest angle, and finance especially at the minute, we're all feeling the cost of living crisis, is something that's very top of mind. So it's topical and trending, and people want to know more how to save money.
Hey friend, if you stuck around this far, I'll take it you're enjoying the podcast. Please hit the like button to show your support, subscribe to stay in the loop, and click the bell button to get notified when we release a new episode. Thank you. Did you learn any lesson from this campaign that you might want to share with us?
I think we're always learning lessons from digital PR campaigns. I think that probably the first thing that we learned was that there's so many different varieties of carrots that you can get that you just don't know where to start. I never knew how many different kinds of carrots you could get in a supermarket.
You have to tell me some of them.
Oh, yeah. So you can get like there's the long ones with like all the green coming out of the end.
Yeah. We have those back home.
They're like proper, like,
yes,
and
big.
Yeah, they look like they've literally just been pulled out of the ground.
Yes.
Then you've got the baby carrots, you've got like Chantenay carrots, and then you've got organic versions of carrots, and then you've kind of got like your normal bag of carrots. So you've got like over
Is anyone
5.
more delicious than the other? To me, the all taste the same.
I mean,
I've had organic, I've had not. To me, they taste the same. I can't tell the difference.
I think if the I quite like a honey glazed carrot. So
honey what now?
Honey glazed. So like you glaze it with honey and then you bake it in the oven.
Oh, yes. I've had that on the roast before.
Yeah.
It was so good.
So that, and this is, I guess, the other kind of variable that we could have looked at from a roast perspective is that obviously some people like to really dress up their roast. So like a bit of a cauliflower cheese or, a honey glazed carrot. We didn't really take that into consideration. So I think there's a lot of variables with the campaign that we could, maybe have expanded on, or had the potential to kind of maybe cause an issue for us if someone then came back and said, well, I like my carrots honey glazed, or I like to have baby carrots with my roast. You know what I mean? So we had to really kind of go with what we felt the majority would have. So that was a big learning. I think if you do anything food related, be prepared for how many different types of food you might have to contend with.
I'm going to ask you a divisive question now that I would not plan for.
Okay, go for it.
What should be in the perfect Sunday roast?
Okay, so in my opinion, for the perfect Sunday roast would be a roast chicken.
Chicken.
Yeah.
Okay.
Chicken for me.
I'm judging you already.
That's
go
absolutely
on.
fine. I'm cool with that. Stuffing is like a big thing for me. So really nice stage and onion stuffing. I'm a big fan of cauliflower cheese. So I'd have to have a cauliflower cheese. Also open to like having broccoli in the cauliflower cheese as well. So, just to kind of get the greens in there a bit. Some minted peas I really like. Honey glazed carrots and potentially parsnips. I don't cook all this, by the way. This is more like if I'm going out for one. And then a good Yorkshire pudding, but I don't like the big Yorkshire puddings. There's got to be a small Yorkshire pudding because the big ones, they get burnt, and then I'm not a fan of that. And then a really good thick gravy. It's very important.
You're so hard to please.
Yeah, I feel like I've listed off like 15 different things there that I require in a Sunday roast. And that definitely wasn't all covered in this campaign. But I feel like, this is making me hungry now. I feel like
I had Sunday roast on Sunday, but I'm realizing that the Sunday roast I had was not as good as it should have been. But what you're mentioning, I need to keep trying. I need to keep trying to find the perfect Sunday roast. You've convinced me now. Excellent. I've never had Sunday roast with cauliflower cheese. So I'm going to make that my next mission now to find that. All right. What is the one thing you do every day that brings you a tiny pocket of joy?
I was saying before I came into this podcast about my dog. So I have a 15-month-old golden retriever. And this isn't actually related to digital marketing really in any way, but I guess it is because it helps me a lot with my job and what I do. But I really enjoy taking him for a walk. He gets so excited before we go out. Like he's like jumping and bouncing all around. And I know it's like one of the highlights of his day. And it really just gives me a bit of time to kind of have a bit of clarity in the morning. So, I love that. I go out, it's kind of cold. I get a bit of fresh air. I also, from a digital PR perspective, get a bit of chance to read the news. So I can kind of understand what's like trending as well, and just have that time for me, obviously with my dog, just to, have that that kind of time to process and sort of understand what's going on before I start my day. And I just kind of enjoy seeing him have a good time. And most of the time he's just sniffing the grass and like having fun. But yeah, that brings me a lot of joy. And
you really, 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 really love your dog.
I do really love my dog. Yeah. Well, I mean, he's 15 months at the minute and he is being a little terror. So I love him 95% at the minute. It was about 110%. Predominantly because he spends his time ripping up my garden. He's going through his kind of troubled teenage years at the minute. So I'll love him a little bit more when he gets to 3, I think, because that's when he starts to calm down a bit. But I just having that time, I think, in the day really just, it's nice. I really enjoy it and I get my steps in. So it's always a good start.
All right, I'm going to turn the tables now. Do you want to ask me a question?
I would love to know what sort of sparked your interest in the cheapest roast.
I like the fact that it was not some monumental results. I think that was the first thing that caught my attention. It was very specific, 100 backlinks. Anybody can buy into that. I like results that are tangible, that, oh, okay, we can keep doing this. Because viral campaigns, like I said, they are great. But how many times can you replicate a viral campaign? So I'd rather take the more consistent results. So I think that was the main thing for me. It was not like this massive campaign. It was small. The results were great. And there's still not a lot of SEOs that will even get you that many backlinks from a link building campaign. So big ups to you, honestly. That was incredible work.
Awesome.
That's it for today on Mospod. Thank you to our guest, Amanda Walls, Director at Cedarwood Digital. Amanda, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I've had a great time.
This episode was engineered by Saul Fox, produced by Chima Mmeje and Joe Cameron, and our YouTube footage was filmed and edited by Sarah Galpin. Remember, curiosity did not kill the cat. It just improved its search rankings. Bye-bye.